everybody, and welcome to the Bob Show here on KYCA 1490 AM and 103.5 FM. My name is Bob Recker, and I'm your host here. And if you've listened to or watched the Bob Show, we're on podcast right now. You'll know that we often have folks that own small businesses in the Prescott area, and I just love to talk to them because they're the spine, the backbone of the economy in any community our size, and it's always a pleasure to have folks like our guests today here. And I want to take some time and just talk to Gary and have him tell you a little bit about himself. So welcome Gary Miller, who owns S&M Electric here in Prescott, Arizona. The Bob Show's host uses S&M Electric for all their electrical needs. Matter of fact, I'm on the program where we pay the monthly thing, so if something comes up, we get that.
Our safety saving plan.
Yeah, that whole thing, and we'll talk about that when we get into it. But anyway, Gary, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, well, it's good to have you. I'm glad you took the time to come because guys like you are so important to our local economy. And as we talked before the show, back a long time ago when I was involved with the Chamber of Commerce, you really see the impact of even back then, the local places. And we were talking about a little bit about Kendall's, where I was right next to downtown. Kendall's isn't there anymore, but guys like Kendall's, Jasper, and those guys that worked downtown all those years, it's important to our community that these businesses are around. And we're glad you were here, and we're glad you've been doing this for quite a long time now. So I'm going to be quiet. I'd like for you to talk to the audience that listens to the Bob Show and tell them a little bit about who you are personally, how you got here, and then we'll get into the business part of it after all that. So the stage is yours.
Well, I'm Gary Miller, and I moved here in 72.
Yep.
But before that, I grew up, started working in electric at 12, and we're helping my dad. And so I've done it for a lot of years. I did other things too. I didn't always work with him, but I worked off and on with him for a long time. After we moved here, I worked for other electricians here, and then in 82, we started our company. A partner and I started it, and his name was Ron Smith. That's where we got the S&M from, and our name. And he worked with partners with me for 22 years, and he ended up as the head of all the maintenance in the county, and after he left our organization. But so that's basically it. We've worked for 42 years there now. So
yeah, how have you seen your business grow in those 42 years, and talk about it maybe in numbers, and also the things you're doing now that you weren't doing 42 years ago.
Well, start out doing, of course, residential homes, and also commercial jobs, just anything that came along. But then when the big recession hit, the banks were selling the repoed homes for less money than the builders could build them for. And we were basically out of work for 8 years. And we started doing service work. We would hand out door hangers and just looking for job wherever we could, and we got enough not enough, but a little service work that kept us going. Otherwise, we would have been out of business. And so at the end of the 8 years, things started picking up again, and we started building our service end of the business, and that's all we do now. we got out of the new home and commercial stuff.
Yeah, yeah. You know what you just said is never. It really hit me when you said that. Because of the recession, and because of repos, people weren't building new homes because what you just said, and it puts guys like you that were, doing that kind of work, putting in the electrical stuff for new homes, out of business essentially.
Well, one of our biggest builders used to do 15 or more big homes every year, and he did one over 4 years. So that's how bad it got.
Yeah.
In that
Wow.
recession. Yeah.
Yeah. So when things go sideways as far as funds and money in the economy goes in the United States, it has a quick sideways way to go for small businesses.
It can affect you.
Oh my gosh, in a big way.
But and we've grown our business a lot since then, doing just service work, and we got 7 trucks going out doing just service work. So that's we found to be a better way to do it than depend on them. How many homes are being built or whatever.
Sure. So boy, that makes sense, because the homes are there, and homes need service because things go wrong.
Well, and people want to change things or add a ceiling fan or whatever. And that's,
yeah.
And so even if the economy slows down, there's still some work that they're going to do.
Sure.
So
sure.
It helped us a lot getting into this end of it.
Yeah. So you're I wrote it down. You're married to a lady named Donna.
Yes.
And I tried to get her to come on the show, Andrew, and she wouldn't. I don't blame her. Really.
Well, she thought about it.
Oh, okay, good. I had Chris from Salty's barber on, and his wife's name is Dawn, and I said, well, bring Dawn along. She can come on. She could sit here, and we're on the podcast, and we'll have a good time. She sat over there in that room over there. She wouldn't do it. She got this far, but then she sat over there, and I thought that was kind of funny.
Well, we've been married for 62 years. She's put up with me for a long time.
I was just going to ask, and it's one of the, okay, you've been married for 62 years, and did you get married in California? Were you in California?
Well, we were in California, but we got married in Las Vegas.
Oh, you got married in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Do you remember where?
At the courthouse.
At the courthouse in Las Vegas.
We got the license there, and they had a judge there, and we said, okay.
No Elvis Presley for you, right?
No. And the judge was in a hurry. I didn't have my jacket on, and he said, well, do you want to get married or not? And I said, okay. So he married us in a real quick ceremony, and he got done, said, I usually get $15 when I perform these, and I felt like I should have told him I usually only pay 10, but I didn't. But
You should have.
I wish I'd have said it.
I know. Yeah. Oh my gosh! That reminds me of a thing that happened to us in Vegas one time. We were over there, and we were walking around. I can't remember the name of the hotel, and you're not going to believe this when I tell you this. We were walking around, and who was standing in the same hallway as we were in this casino with Red Skelton. And he was signing autographs, a picture of himself, and he's signing autographs. You ready? For 50 cents.
Yeah.
He would sign an autograph, and he was collecting money for some charity.
Mm-hmm.
So I walked up to him, like I've known him my whole life, and I said, I'd like to, and it was to our son. He signed it, and he handed it over, and I gave him a $1 bill. And he says, I need to give you change. Well, now, like 20 different people have seen him now. right? And so they were all milling around and looking, and doing how people do. I said, keep the change, right? A dollar. And he says, no, I insist to get your money back. And I never got the 50 cents back because the crowd got real big real fast. But I always remember that having one of those funny things that happen too. I usually keep charged.
You mentioned Red Skelton. I saw him a couple times down Palm Springs, where he lived down there part of the time, and along with Bob Hope and
Bing Crosby,
all kinds of them. You'd see them on the streets back in the 50s.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Sheesh. I'll tell you. I wonder. I assume that most people that watch or listen to the Bob Show probably know who we're talking about. I assume that they do.
There's might be a few of the younger ones that don't know.
They might not. They might not. All right. Well, let's go ahead and take our first break. When we get into it, we're going to talk some more about personal stuff because I'm interested in a couple of comments he made before we came on the air. So stick with us. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the Bob Show here. We're talking to Gary Miller from S&M Electric, and we're just talking about just stuff that we've done in our past and whether or not people can remember some of the names we were just talking about, with like Red Skelton, Bob Hope, and Bing Crosby. I think he was in that area too, wasn't he?
Yeah. Lucille Ball.
Lucille Ball, yeah, of course. Desi Arnaz is probably hanging around. I don't know. It's Frank Sinatra had a place there, right?
He had a place there too.
Yeah.
A bunch of them. I can't even think of all their names.
Well, they were, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, golly. Holy cow. And then we were talking about getting married and how long we've been married and everything. And you guys met in high school and really didn't know each other. And it's kind of.
Well, we actually met in grammar school.
In grammar school.
But, yeah, we never remember meeting. We just always knew each other.
Yeah.
So.
And then all of a sudden you think, hey, it makes sense for us to get together and get married. And
we've been, she's put up with me for 62
all those years. Yeah, amazing. Yeah. I'm beginning to know why she decided not to come. No. So how many kids you have?
Well, we had 4.
Okay.
And
what kinds?
We had a girl and a boy and 2 girls.
Oh, okay. Super.
And my oldest daughter had 7 kids. And her first 2 each had 7.
Huh.
And then the rest of them all started having kids too. So we've got 48 grandkids.
Yeah.
32 of them are great.
Yeah.
And the rest of them aren't too bad either.
If I ask you to name all 48 grandkids, could you do it?
No, but my wife can.
That's why we should have Donna here.
She would go to sleep at night, instead of counting sheep, she would say one of the families and how many kids and their
Sure.
names.
Oh,
And she's got them all down. I can't remember my own name if I didn't have it on my shirt.
do you say? Yeah, me either. Same thing. Do you sell? Do you still send Christmas cards to everybody?
Well, we send family deals.
Yeah. Okay. You send to yes, because we do. We do too.
We used to buy gifts for each of the grandkids,
Yeah.
but then it started getting too many.
Yeah. It got crazy, and you know, next week we're flying back to Wisconsin. I have one and one aunt still there. She's going to turn 90 years old, and we're flying back for her birthday in next week.
Oh,
And
great.
so everybody else is, and I still have cousins live back there. You know, some cousins are still back there just where they were before, kind of a thing. But so it goes fast, doesn't it?
Yeah,
It just
amazing. You can't believe how fast time goes by.
yeah.
The slowest time is when you're young, you're still in school, or you're waiting to go to school, or you're waiting to learn how to drive, and everything takes so long, as a kid. But after that, everything just boom in a hurry.
When am I going to get to be 16 so I can get my driver's license?
Yeah,
I got to get my driver's license when I,
Oh,
Andrew, true? Yeah, see, it's still true today.
No, they're waiting to do everything, and now it's just flies by.
Yeah, of course. But the good thing, Gary, is that we live in Prescott, Arizona,
Yes.
and when you think about it, how lucky we are to be living in this location.
Oh, this is, I think, perfect.
I do too. They're bad. There's been a couple bad days, where the hail comes down and you got to replace your roof kind of days, but
it's still not like they're having the hurricanes hit and all that.
Oh my gosh! I think you wonder sometimes. I don't know. And even in a place like Asheville, have you been to Asheville, North Carolina? That place is. I've been there, and that place is kind of like here. It's a small little community. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah. And to have what happened there happen is just beyond my comprehension, because it's not by the ocean, I mean, it's didn't seem flood prone, but man, a wall of water just
so much water. Yeah.
Wiped that place. Asheville not so much as some of the other little communities around there.
It'd take us a couple of years or more to get the kind of water they got all at once.
Oh my gosh, it was. I don't remember what the numbers were, but like 10 inches an hour or some crazy thing like that. And can you imagine?
We maybe get that much in a year, 20 at the on a big
20
year.
on a regular. Yeah, exactly. I just can't even imagine that would happen. Anyway, that's one of the good things about being in Prescott, Arizona. I guess we're kind of in the crease.
It's a good spot.
It's a good spot. Matter of fact, it's better than good. It's a good place to raise kids.
Oh yeah.
And I just, the personal thing here, I just saw on Facebook today what's going on, and there were pictures of 2 places along, it was Ruth Street, I think, or maybe Montezuma, which I call Whippazuma, where Montezuma turns into Whipple turns into, you know what I'm talking about, where it
right.
didn't used to be there, that road. And there was graffiti on a couple of walls. And I can remember a person at the police department who spoke to us one time, and he said, graffiti is only exists if the community allows it. And it stuck in my head forever. And I would hope that somebody, if you're listening out there and you work for the city or whatever, that graffiti is gone by tomorrow morning, because that's how you defeat graffiti. As soon as they put it up, you take it down, and no exceptions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 100%. It's got to happen 100%, because once it starts and you allow it, it gets worse and worse and worse, and it's just one of those little things that speaks volumes to me anyway, that a community would allow that to happen. And now it exists in our little community, and I don't know about you, but I don't like it. I think that's kind of a scary thing to have that happen. So
No, it's a lot of things we don't like.
yeah, well, I know,
but not necessarily here. It's all over.
It's all over.
Yeah.
It's all over the world. Actually, that's
Right.
true. I gotta let's talk about business a little bit. You said you had seven vans that you send out
Mm-hmm.
doing work all over. I assume you cover the Quad Cities.
The Quad Cities mainly, and then we go to some over to Cottonwood area, not that much.
Yeah. Okay.
And we go down to Yarnell and
Yeah. Okay.
places like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
How many employees you got?
well, right now there's 16.
16.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, we've seen the same guy a couple of times since we've started working with you guys. 1 minute left for the break. Okay. I want to talk after the break. We got about a half a minute before the break about what a normal call would be and what you normally would do, and guys like us that are on the program, what we get for being in the group, where if something goes wrong, we call and you show up and take care of the situation for us, and just talk a little bit about the business itself and
Sure.
what somebody gets when they use S&M Electric. And I think it's just important that the folks out there listening to the Bob Show can hear about it. So we'll cover those things as soon as we get
You
back.
bet. You bet.
All right, here we go with the hard break at the bottom of the hour in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stick with us. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the Bob Show here on KYC. I am Bob Recker, your host, and we're talking to Gary Miller from S&M Electric, and we've just been talking about vacations and having a good time and everything. And I've been remiss in letting everybody know what the phone number is here. If you've got a question for Gary, you can give him a call or give us a call, and we'll put you on the air. It's area code 928. Write that down. 541-1016. And if you got a question for Gary, and we're going to get into his business a little bit right now, and maybe it'll spring a thought in your head about what you might want to ask him. So, okay, Gary, I mentioned before the show that you have a program where you can pay so much a month, and then you have the availability of S&M Electric in certain. You get certain things for the monthly thing. Could you explain that program real quick?
Yeah, we come out every year and do a safety inspection
Right.
for you and make sure that everything's still safe. We take down the smoke detectors and clean them out and put new batteries in and that type of thing. And check your GFI outlets. That's the ones with the push button on them. The only purpose of those is to save your life if you're getting a shock. And if they're not working, then they're not any better than the regular outlets. So we make sure they're still working, and they actually have to trip in less than 200 milliseconds to save you. So we test them with a tester and see what they're doing, and most of them are still good, but once in a while we run into ones that are not tripping fast enough or just won't trip at all.
Yeah.
So, but we do that every year, and then we give our club members get a discount on the work that we do. So that helps on the economy end of it. And then we do try to put in the top of the line when you call in so that you get service quicker than otherwise. And so
you also check the panel outside, right?
We tighten things in the panel and make sure it's still okay. And of course, sometimes we run into old panels that really should be replaced. Otherwise, you have an emergency someday when we find
completely
some
fail.
that the breakers will just burn up inside there. And so we try to make sure that those things are okay still.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. The reason I asked that is I think we watched a scary movie one time, and one of the things they did in the scary movie was that they went to that panel and opened it up and turned everything off. You know, so we have a lock on ours. So what I do is I take the lock off, and your guy checks everything, and I just kind of stand there and wait. So I watch him do it, so I can put the lock back on. So that's why I know you checked the panel.
You better not lose your key.
Yeah, I know. We got an envelope for that, so but it's entirely possible that we can.
No, it's panels are. They figure that you should replace them when they're 20 years old.
Oh.
We don't know how long they last. We've seen them burn up when they're 20 or more years old. I mean, they might last another 10 years. They might only last another few months. You never know.
What would cause them to burn out? What would be some kind of surge or something?
No, well, of course they get those too, but the breakers are a spring on, that tighten around the bus. And over the years, the springs are less tight. And of course, once they get looser, then they start to overheat, and then eventually they just burn the bus up, and the breakers too. We've seen them where they just totally burn up.
If one of them burns, you need to replace the whole thing, right? Or you can't.
You should, the bus has been overheated, and of course your other breakers are old too, and so it's probably best to replace them. We have
ours are way over 20 years old, Gary.
we see them all the time that are over that, and like I say, we don't know how long they last.
Yeah.
But we do know that the people that have trouble with them is usually right after or shortly after the 20-year period.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting.
So if you don't want to have a emergency where you're out of power for a while, well, then it's better to change it, and then you at least got another 20 years.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, let's go ahead and take our next to the last break, I think, and when we come back, I'm going to ask Gary what the thing that you see the most, the thing that we should be aware of as homeowners, so that we can maybe preempt it from happening if we know what it is. So stick with us. We'll be right back. And we're back here on the Bob Show. We're talking to Gary Miller from S&M Electric, and as I promised, I got to ask you, what's the most common thing that you see that homeowners have or do that causes, I don't want to say concern, but something that needs attention?
Well, the the thing that they should be doing is changing their smoke detectors when they're 8 to 10 years old. And um, it's they say that a 10-year-old smoke detector has a less than 30% chance of working when it's supposed to. And so we do want them to go off if we have a fire.
Of course.
And get us out of the house. And they some of the technology in the newer ones now have less nuisance alarms. They can still go off when we don't want them to, and they're annoying as heck. But
Yeah.
If they go off, most of the time we if there is a fire, of course, we want to know and get out of the house.
Sure. Sure.
That protects people most. And then, of course, there's all kinds of other problems in the homes where loose connections are a problem, but that's not necessarily something that the homeowner can fix. I mean, it's,
Right. So you would detect that, or you would probably recognize
in
it.
our safety inspections. We do
Yeah.
check for loose connections and
Okay,
stuff.
I got two other questions that popped in my head. Extension cords and power cord things. Talk to us about that. Our extension.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
One of the reasons that codes nowadays make us put in so many outlets, you can only be 6 feet from a door opening and no more than 12 feet apart, because they want the 6-foot cord on a lamp to reach one or the other outlets.
Oh.
They don't want extension cords because eventually they're going to have a problem with them. Either the dog chews on them or something. But
Sure.
they are not necessarily a good idea. I mean, we all have to use them from time to time, but you don't want them on a permanent basis. So,
Yeah, I'm just thinking of something. I have an extension cord on a permanent. How about those power strip things? Are those okay to plug in a bunch of stuff?
well, they can be. It depends what you're plugging in. I mean, you don't want to plug in more than the circuit can handle. And then some of those are surge protectors.
Yes, they
Like
are.
for your TV and your computer, you need to have those. And then we do put surge protectors on people's panels outside so that the power company gets hit with lightning, that surge gets bled off at the panel rather than coming in the house. And they'll actually bleed off 120,000 amps to
Holy
ground.
mackerel.
And
Okay.
but you know, they're all things that can help protect you.
All right. Well, we've got a caller on line one, so let's put on our headsets, see if we can hear him. And we've got Johnny on line one. Johnny, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Can you hear?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I do have someone from your service coming out to my house, but I have a question first. I mean, I have a variety of things that I think need to be taken care of. My house is 30 years old. But I would like to know how big a problem it is if you can't read which circuit breakers go to where.
Good question.
I mean, I know when they pop, you got to take care of it. But, I mean, I don't know. The door was either open or got messed up, or I can't tell what's what. And I got those little cards that, that are plasticized that says what is what, but I don't know how to fill them in because I can't tell what's what.
Well, if we come out there, of course, we can check them. We can find out what the circuit is and mark them for you.
But over the years, different people have decided I needed to do this or I need to do this, and we'll use this instead of this. And you know how that goes?
Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
I think all guys know how that goes, but not all women know how that goes.
So Gary, if you went out to Johnny's house, you could figure out what that circuit breaker is for and
Yes.
mark it for her and write it, put it on the panel.
Yes, we can do that.
Okay.
Sure.
But
Okay.
I think I have more problems than that. I do have another question, and this will show you how ignorant I am about some things. I've been watching on TV about solar generators. Now, how can a solar generator work in a storm if you don't have any sun?
Well, the solar part won't. If you have battery backups and stuff, they might. But most of the generators we put in for people are actually hooked up to natural gas or propane so that they can run when the power's off. And if you do a solar type thing, you got to have a battery backup also so that it will work when the power's off.
Well, what brand do you recommend for a generator?
Well, we sell Generacs, and they're one of the biggest companies making generators.
But Generac wants $5,000 a year to come and check it. That sounds kind of crazy.
Wow, why would that really?
No, they don't.
They don't. You wouldn't. That doesn't cost that. How much does a Generac generator cost?
Well, I mean, you can spend several $1,000s, of course, on one.
Many.
but not every year.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So you would just have just a general checkup for one of those things, right?
Yeah, you can have maintenance. You got to change the oil in them and stuff. If they run every so often, just keep themselves going,
Yeah.
and so they can change the oil and filter and that type of thing, like you would on a car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
Once
All
you
right.
bought it, I can't imagine it costs, that much more
Well,
to
it
maintain
sounded crazy to me.
Yeah.
Maybe I got 1 0 off, but
it. You're asking good questions, Johnny.
Yeah,
Well,
there's several
I'm sorry. I
options
mean,
on
I've been
doing.
listening to you while I've been in my car, but I had to go in and out of stores, so I don't know what you've covered. But I have heard that your business, sir, is like the best, and I get very nervous about these things. So I'm glad to know that you are on the radio and that you are in business, and I thank you. And I thank you, Councilman. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you. This is exactly why I love call-in shows like this, because somebody like Johnny calls and she asks questions that would never go in my little brain that make perfect sense. That things that are concerning her, and you can answer them for her. And she should call S&M Electric and set up an appointment and have you guys come out, and you charge a service fee or whatever it is to come out and probably get a lot of her anxiety removed from her everyday thoughts.
Yeah, well, it's not a bad idea to have us do a free safety inspection for her, and that way she can know everything's still
Sure,
safe
she'll
in the
know
house,
after you.
you know.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we got one more break to take. Johnny, thank you for the call. It was a good call, and we enjoyed it very much. So stick with us. We got one more panel or one more session to go. So we'll be right back. And we're back here on the Bob Show. We're talking to Gary Miller from S&M Electric, and we had a really good call from Johnny about things that we hadn't thought about or I hadn't thought about, so I'm glad she called. I do have a question for you. It's a little bit of an abstract question, but I generally like to ask these kind of questions. What is one of the scariest things that happens to an electrician? Maybe not to them personally, but when you walk into a circumstance that scares you about doing something, water on, something. Do you have those things pop up? I'm sure you do.
Well,
No.
they we've seen some awfully scary work that people have done for themselves, or their uncle has done it, or whatever.
A good example, yeah.
And which isn't the code, And the reason they have codes is so that we do the job right, and that's why we have inspections and stuff. So it's important that jobs are done right, otherwise they can cause fires.
Yeah. I think I thought of, if those little plugs that you can put into your outlets, with people with little babies and stuff, should they be using those on a regular basis? Because how dangerous it is for a little baby to go out, or maybe a 1 or 2 year old to walk in and stick something in one of those things.
Well, that's could be a problem. I don't know how many of them really get hurt bad doing it, but they could.
Yeah.
If they're touching the ground somewhere and then touch the hot, that could kill them. But no, it's years ago. My youngest daughter, when she was little, we had one of those lights that plugs in, and it's like a flat thing. And she took a hammer, and she's prying it off, and it hit the prongs, and sparks flew, and she learned a good lesson. And she didn't get hurt, but she learned, don't mess with electric.
And it only takes a millisecond for something bad to happen, I guess. Back many, many years ago when I was a little boy and we'd visit our grandparents' house, I remember lightning rods on their house, and they had a glass bulb on them about maybe a foot down from the top.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain how those things worked back in the day when they used those?
Well, I don't know about the bulb thing.
Yeah, I don't know what that was on.
But those lightning rods aren't bad if you put them on a tower or on a water tank or something where you just got a small area. But most homes have too many different angles and different things, and every time you have an angle, you got to have one of those spikes up. And what they do, they run a cable across the house from a ground rod on one side and goes through every one of these spikes and back down to the other side of the house into a ground rod. So they carry the electricity from the lightning down to the ground, and it doesn't necessarily hit your house. But the cost of putting them in is usually more than wiring a house, so most people don't do it.
Yeah.
And
well, I don't see anybody doing it anymore.
No, it's just too expensive, these points that stick up and stuff.
Commercial buildings? No?
Don't see much of it at all. There may be some doing them out there, but it's not.
Okay, got another question for you. This is another off-the-wall question. When lightning comes down, can it make right turns? Can it angle? Have you ever heard of lightning coming down and making a 90-degree turn?
I think lightning can do anything it wants.
There you go. Good answer. Because my dad always talked about a lightning coming down when he was in the barn and coming through the window and then shooting right by, putting it in. So it can do that, right?
Oh, yeah. We had a house one time that it hit a tree, came down the tree, burnt the tree, jumped about 10 feet off the tree to a concrete column that was holding the deck up, knocked the blocks off of there going to the steel. And
really,
I mean, it's just tremendous power.
Oh, oh,
and it depends on how hard it is, the one that hits you. But that's Well, it can. And we do put the surge protectors on the panels to stop it coming off when the power company gets hit. But if your house gets hit, you might as well have insurance, and
sure,
it's going to do damage, period.
Sure,
so.
Of course. Okay, real quick, let's do a commercial. If you want to call S&M Electric, you dial 778-1871.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the name of the gal that's going to answer, and it's immediately escaped my mind.
Well, we got 3 gals.
Okay. And one of the ladies going to answer, and you just tell them who you are and what your address is. You'd like them to come out and do a general inspection or what?
Yeah, whatever you need, we'd be happy to help him.
Okay, and the phrase you used, the catchphrase that S&M Electric is now famous for, is
How can we make you smile today?
and one of the things I noticed when you come to our house too is that you put little booties on. You put those things on, to kind of help.
Well,
It's the little thing, but
we try not to mess up your house.
Yeah.
And we will clean up the house. In fact, if we don't clean it up, you don't have to pay for the job.
there you go. Love it. All right, folks. Thanks for listening. I'm glad you tuned in. Next time you see the Bob Show, it's going to be on Election Day, and I don't know what we're going to do, but we'll be talking about something important. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you on November the 5th, I think it is, or 6th.